Hi, everybody. This is Kathleen from A Great Good Place for Books, and I'm super excited. Samantha and I are going to be talking to New York Times bestselling author Susan Wiggs about her absolutely amazing book, The Lost and Found Bookshop. Welcome, Susan and Samantha.
Thank you
Hello.
so much. This is just a pleasure to meet you this way. I hope we get to do it in person one of these days.
Susan, one of the things that I noticed that you're a Washington, you live in Washington State, and
I do.
yet you set your book in San Francisco. And not only did you send it in San Francisco, it was like such a love letter to the city.
Oh my
Can
God,
you
yes.
tell us?
Oh God, yes. Um, there were the very first spark of inspiration for that book was the, believe it or not, the fact that artifacts were found in the walls of certain old saloons that had been left there by soldiers who were shipping out to the Philippines during the Spanish-American War of 1898 or 99, one of those two. Anyway, I thought, isn't that interesting? They if they didn't live there, they were homeless, they didn't have a home there, where did they keep their valuables while they went overseas? And some of them would like put it behind a brick in their favorite saloon or under a floorboard or something like that. And so it kind of got me thinking about that. And they all deployed from San Francisco. And I love San Francisco. You can probably tell from the
Yeah.
description. So yeah, that was it's funny. Every book has its kernel of an idea, but then it sort of blossoms from there. One thing led to another. And I should tell people tonight what the reason that I'm here in cell block A is that I'm actually in the ER with my mom, and it's not an emergency. She's getting a blood transfusion, and so it's not urgent, but it's a lot of waiting and dripping. So thank you for keeping me company while we go through this.
Well, and thank you, Susan, for doing this under these circumstances.
Oh no, it's good. We have learned how to pivot and be so flexible with so many things today. It's and hats off to booksellers, because we were talking earlier before we went live that this book came out on July 7th and everything was closed then. But I did hear one of the really great things that my publisher did for this book before anybody knew, that this was, on the horizon, is they produced these really lovely advanced reading copies of the book itself. And they sent them out in February to, I think, 500 independent booksellers.
I got one.
Yeah. They were very committed to independent booksellers, and they got them. And I heard from so many of you who said, I had to close my shop, but your book landed on my doorstep right as I was, shutting the door, and I never knew when I would be back. And so it was really gratifying. And one of the things that sets booksellers apart is how creative you guys are and flexible. I look at your calendar, and it just looks really vibrant and interesting. And as much as we'd love to get together in person, this is what we're doing now. We still get to read and talk about books.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think we've learned so many lessons through this, and we've also learned one of the themes of the book is community. And when you have a really rock solid community, you can really pretty much do anything. And I really feel that we have such a rock solid community. What do you think, Sam?
I would agree completely. And I was saying, we were closed for several months as most people were. And then when we had an opportunity to reopen safely, one of my favorite experiences was having customers walk in the store and just, you could see them relax. It was like, just to be back in the shop and smell the smells of the books. And it's so gratifying. So.
Oh, I love that story. We're gonna get through it. It's gonna be different, but it's happening, right?
It is.
Well, I mean, I can honestly say that for the first 3 months, Mike and I pretty much ran the bookstore from my kitchen table.
Did you really?
And that's why they're all making fun of me that he finally got me a decent computer so that I wasn't doing it on my phone anymore. because I didn't have a decent computer and I did all the Zoom calls on my phone.
Oh my
So,
God. Oh my gosh.
so I mean, lessons learned. I mean, I always say it's the tenacity of booksellers. We're just not willing to, and I really think that's what, Natalie kind of celebrates is she wasn't an intentional bookseller, but I believe that she was always a spiritual bookseller.
Well, sometimes the things, I think what she discovers, sometimes the things that you think you want are not the things that you really, really need. And it might take, a huge life change to come around to that. But I love writing about people in the middle of their life, being confronted with this seemingly, impossible situation and finding my way through that. So that book was, it started to resonate more and more as I wrote about it. So in that regard, I was really informed by the things that were happening around me. And so, and I never planned to have Andrew, as a character in the book. He was sort of a side character and almost an afterthought. But at the same time, I was, caregiving for my mom and watching her go through this similar journey. And so that was sort of what informed that part of the book.
And he becomes such a central person.
I know. He's they tell me, oh, he was my favorite. So yeah, that was kind of an something that grew organically into the story as I was writing.
I love, and I also, what I really loved how Natalie's journey evolves is that in the beginning, maybe her feeling is that she's kind of going backwards in a way, like she's sort of returning to the past. But then as the novel evolves and her relationship to the store and the community evolves, she's not going backwards at all. Like she's actually creating a very new, fresh future for herself, which I loved how you navigated through that process.
One of the things that I do when I'm in the process of writing a book is I seem to watch a lot of movies, like especially older movies and things like that. And there was one, remember the movie Working Girl?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Melanie Griffith.
Melanie Griffith, Sigourney Weaver, and Harrison Ford.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but one of the things that I noticed as a writer, you notice different things. I noticed that the way that they portrayed her. Sorry about the beeping. It's a monitor on my mom, but she's okay. Oh, it means her first pint is empty. So we're ordering another pint.
We are.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, anyway, one of the things that I noticed is what she was wearing in the 4 key scenes, where first she's the working girl, she's got the big hair and the tight skirt and the high heels, and she's schlepping her tennis shoes in a bag and everything, and she's very uncomfortable. And it was a picture of somebody who's uncomfortable in her own life. And as you watch her kind of evolve through the story, then she tries on the corporate raider outfit. And then, in the end, she's just kind of schlepping in her jeans and her sweatshirt, going back to the office to clean out her desk. And so I tried to emulate that in in Natalie's journey, where we first meet her with her kind of horrible job in a beautiful place. She lives in Sonoma and it's beautiful there when it's not on fire. But she didn't really fit into that life. And so I tried to, clue the reader into that. And it was that was a lot of the fun part of that.
Well, I remember when in the book when she encounters the women talking about her.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That was so horrible.
I know, the mean girls.
Mean girls.
They were. I know.
Oh, I know. I was just like, oh my God, they have no idea she's right there and she can hear it.
God. I actually had an email from my Swedish translator. The books go into translation in different countries, and every once in a while the translator will email me with a question or something like that. And she was like, oh my God, that scene was so cringy. It was really fun though.
Everyone can relate to a scene like that, I guess.
Yes, I know.
Well,
Well,
and I
so we
noticed
have to grow up and we write books and it's all good.
exactly. One of the things that really stuck with me was like when she was in Sonoma working at the winery, she always seemed a bit detached.
Yeah,
The only time she really kind of came into her own is when she was with her best friend.
right, right.
And then as she comes down to take over the shop, and it's totally unexpected, um, she starts to become, she blossoms and becomes like a better version of herself.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's when you think you're, when you think you're living your best life, but there's something that's nagging at you, sometimes you have to pay attention to that really quiet voice that says, take a risk, try something else. And so she definitely embodied that for me. And I kind of did, the reason that I chose the setting of Sonoma for her original starting off point in the book was that I had written two other books that took place in that area, the Apple Orchard and the Beekeeper's Ball. And those are two related books about two sisters who grow up separately and then they meet as adults and have drama and it's all good. And I had always planned to write a third book. And so there was a very large unanswered question at the end of the second book, and that was when there were some big changes at my publisher, and I actually changed HarperCollins. It's complicated, but they acquired my publisher, which was Mira Books, which is an imprint of Harlequin. One thing led to another, and I ended up at a different imprint with a different editor, and so I haven't gotten to write that third book yet, and so a couple of the walk-ons are borrowed from, my editor calls them Easter eggs. When there's a character from another book that only readers who'd read that other book might recognize, it's not like key to understanding the book, but it's just like a little fun shout out to readers. So yeah, so
that's great.
Yeah. She just happened to need an antiquities expert because she started finding things in the walls of her. Have you ever renovated a new space in an old building or something like that? I'm always so intrigued. You almost never find anything of value, but I always fantasize about it. So that was that was one of the fun.
I haven't had that, but I was in, my father lives in a small town in Massachusetts on the coast. And I was walking through the town and they were redoing some siding on the outside of a house. And these guys were just standing around looking, and they had pulled up the siding and they had papered it with these beautiful old posters. They were just these wild, and they were trying to figure out how do we get them off in one piece, because they just were so cool looking, and it was, you could tell they were just going, what do we do with this? But
yeah, I'm just intrigued. My husband took apart an old mirror. He renovates old homes in the area, one of the many things he does, but he took apart a mirror, and behind it was the Toronto Star from, I think, 1961 or something. And it was the entire paper. And because it was behind a mirror, it was perfect. And we just sat and read it and laughed. Oh my God, it's so strange, and it's strangely familiar, but it's such a different world.
When I was in my 20s, we moved into this kind of rickety old house over by Children's Hospital in Oakland. For those of you who know where that is, it's not the greatest area in the world. And we were doing something, and we were taking the wallpaper off, and underneath the wallpaper, we found newspaper. They had glued it with newspaper. And we found all these old newspapers, and we were just roaring laughing because it was like an old rickety house. And I'm sure that somebody will find stuff years later hidden in those walls.
Yeah. Well, when they were trying to design the cover of the hardcover, there were discussions, should we reveal, a hint at one of the treasures, or should we just kind of let it be whimsical or leave it to the reader's imagination? And originally, one of the things that my publisher has done for me that I really appreciate is they put end papers in my hardcover. With that, the like the wallpaper on the inside, front, and back cover. And so we were just designing the end papers of the Lost and Found Bookshop, and it was going to be a hint about what was what they find. And COVID hit, and the art department all went home.
Oh,
The design department, and they said, guess what? We're not going to do the end papers because there was nobody there to do it. And so, it would have been maybe a bit of a spoiler, but yeah. So
that
anyway,
would have been fun.
yeah, I love end paper. I'm such a book geek. I love the way they're made,
I love end papers
what
too.
they look like. I love, what the edges of the pages look like, and I'm very preoccupied with that. So I got to really indulge that when I was writing this, and making your lives seem like a dream every day. Oh my God.
Every day, all we have to do is discover an original autograph.
That's right, exactly. You throw open the door and the
There
money
it is.
kind of pours in a
It
river.
just
Right?
does. It does. That's so great.
Yeah, the thing I found amazing about that is every time they did find something, Andrew kind of felt like he needed to give it back to its original owners
Yeah,
instead of making money from it.
I know.
I know. It's like, no, take it to the auction house.
He was painfully ethical guy.
It was painful, but yeah. And I actually had a bigger historical backstory that was trying to take on a life of its own, where one of the originating characters, Colleen, was acquainted with William Randolph Hearst. And so I had this really big story about them, but it kind of didn't quite fit, the real story about Natalie that I wanted to tell. So I really pared it down, but in my mind, they had this big, interesting, crazy relationship. He was a nutcase, but he was kind of a genius too. So
They'll be in another novel.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Speaking of another novel, here's another Easter egg for readers. So the one that I'm working on now, in the Lost and Found Bookshop, I was very some of the booksellers that I interviewed for the book to find out what their lives were like. Several of them really liked the idea of having a coffee bar with pastries. And one of them said, listen to this, one of them said it was 25% of her till every day. And so I thought, well, I'll make a coffee bar, but we need some yummy baked goods. And so the bakery across the street is called Sugar. And so the book that I'm writing now is called Sugar and Salt, because the bakery is a barbecue place, and it's kind of a Romeo and Juliet rom-com thing. So
how fun.
Yeah, so it takes place on Perdita Street. I kind of fell in love with my made-up Perdita Street. I was picturing
I wanted it to be real.
I know, I did too.
So one of the many, so first of all, just generally speaking, like the details, the beautiful little details that you put in all throughout to bring the bookstore alive, like I can really visualize it. Like I could imagine the movie version and walking in. But
where's the movie version? I want to see it.
Where's the movie version? If anyone's listening who has, contacts. Yeah. But I loved how she pulled all the little quotes and had them sort of peppered throughout the store, and the idea of that, sort of there's always.
You guys do that, like your staff pick cards and stuff like that in your store?
We do it. We have some staff picks, but I realize like I kind of would love to do that more, like pull out quotes and find ways to those were another little treasure hunt, that you could find. And I wondered if you do that, like, because you obviously had a lot of beautiful quotes. Do you collect quotes?
I totally, because I used to be a classroom teacher. And so I would have, quote of the day and word of the day. And the mom in the book, in the Lost and Found Bookshop, she had her wow shelf, words of wisdom. And I had that in my classroom years and years ago. And I would mark, a significant passage of a book that I really wanted to be sure and share. So yeah, I got to bring all that in. And I should tell people on my website, there's a really wonderful reading group guide that my publisher created, and it has not just the usual questions and stuff. It's got like a coloring page, and it's got a printable list of all the books that I cited in the book, because I love books about books. And so most of the books that I cited in the book are real books that I've read, or they're, a couple of them are made up. And so if hopefully I intrigued people to pick up a Gail Tsukiyama book or a Garth Stein's book or something like that by citing it in there.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So that's on my website. If they go to, there's a click to the reading group guide, and so it's there. Do you have book groups in your shop? Do they organize themselves around your shop or something?
We have a few.
Book clubs?
Yeah.
And then we also have one that we do, that we've been doing for years, that I can see a few of the people on the call are part of that book club. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, I mean, book clubs are essential to the independent bookstore.
They are. Yeah, I know. And I belong to 2 different book clubs, and I try, I every year, it's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to read every single one that gets assigned, and I've been doing pretty well, especially during COVID.
Are they both monthly, or how often do they meet?
No, one of them is quarterly, so that's good. Yeah, and the other one's monthly.
I was like, wow, 24 books a year. That would be really.
I'm a fast reader. I read myself to sleep every night.
I do
every
too.
night. So yeah.
I mean, that's your book kept me awake a few nights.
Oh, good. Well, good.
I mean, I really have to say that I loved how you didn't hit us over the head with the love story, but it was there, the underlying current between Natalie and Peach.
I thought I was being really cagey about the love interest, because in my original vision, I thought, well, she would be like torn between 2 lovers, and I didn't fool one single reader. As soon as Peach showed up, they're like, oh yeah, that's him.
It's Peach. Wait, Mike was gonna chime in. So, Mike, did you want?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that I put it in the chat, but we've got not many people responded, so I just wanted to let everybody attending know we have 2 $50 gift cards to give away, thanks to Susan's generosity. To enter, you need to go ahead and send an email to books@ggpbooks.com with the subject of Susan Wiggs, and I'll put that in. The information is in the chat. But send the email, and we're gonna announce the winner of that in about 10 minutes. So multitask and continue to listen about this great book, but go ahead and get your entries in, because the odds are pretty good right now that you'll win.
Yeah, so. No kidding. Yeah.
Thanks.
I love shopping. Whenever I do a book event at a bookstore, I always do a giveaway of a gift card to that store, because I always figure, if nothing else, somebody threw down $100 that night. So, and what better way to do it than to, direct somebody to your shop.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I love doing it. Yeah.
Okay, Mike's gonna handle the email.
Yeah.
So I was really interested in, well, so many pieces, but another piece about the idea of non-traditional family, and how Natalie really struggled with that as a girl, that she felt like a freak, I think she said, or something, because, she had this sort of unconventional grouping. And I just wondered, for you, like, is that something that you've been interested in? I know you do so many.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, really, especially now. And as a teacher, I met kids. I mostly taught 5th grade. I taught some other grade levels, but mostly 5th. And I was always so moved by the different ways that families presented themselves. And my family of origin was very, very traditional, but I became a single mom, and my daughter's a single mom. And so I love the way that people put their families together in other ways other than the strictly traditional original mom, original dad, and kids and the dog. And so I really wanted to sort of do homage to that in the book with Natalie and the people who came and went in her bookshop. And San Francisco is such a hodgepodge. You know, you can meet somebody who's a billionaire, and you can meet somebody who, you know, lives like a bohemian in a, you know, in a loft somewhere, and everything in between. And so that's another little sign that San Francisco just, I love it there. And my book tour was supposed to begin there the day that the book got published. And then I was going to do a driving tour of indie bookstores the first week of the release. And we were just starting to put that together. The publisher was, and they said, nobody can plan anything because nobody knew, you know, how long it would take. So thank you for inviting me to Zoom with you, I guess.
Well, I mean, I know I was a little bit of a stalker, but I mean, I just
stalked. I love my stalkers.
This book just, I mean, I don't know if everybody out there knows why this book resonated so much with me. On November 26th, it'll be my 15-year anniversary of owning the store, which I inherited from a good friend when she passed away unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
And right before I moved to Oakland, I lived in Sonoma.
Okay.
So
wow. Yeah,
I didn't have a peach though, Susan.
Yeah.
I didn't get a peach.
You did.
But I mean, I always say that
about peach. Let me look. It said, what inspired the name Peach for a Man? I love that. My uncle's name was Emmanuel Peachman. We called him Peach. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm just wondering. No, you know what? When you write, sometimes a name just appears. And the name Peach, I don't know, it just came to me, and it just fit so perfectly. And, you know, I even like designed his business card, and then I had to give a reason for why he was called Peach. So I thought, well, he's from Georgia, the Peachtree State. And so I kind of went from there, and he was in the military where everybody has a nickname. And so that was my inspiration. But I love the name of her uncle. I think that's cool.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So, did we have any other questions?
Nope.
A
couple, here's one. Oh, somebody wanted the link again. It's books@ggpbooks.com, right?
Yeah.
That's him.
All right. Okay, so I have to ask, you talk a bit about DNA testing, and I'm fascinated by this subject, and we could go down a whole rabbit hole of DNA testing, but I'm wondering, like, is that something you've been interested in your own life? And
I didn't know that I was, and somebody gave it to my husband and me for Christmas one year, and it was just sitting there because I couldn't be bothered to read the instructions. And finally, when I read how simple it was, I thought, well, yeah, you know, I check into that. And clear, there were no surprises for Jerry or me, like nothing. I wanted something really exotic, like maybe Sephardic Jew, or somebody from India or something. But no, it was all very predictable. But I was really curious about that whole process, and so I started looking into that, and it reveals things about us that matter almost not at all. Is what I found, you know, in the here and now, unless there's like a medical situation or something like that. But there was a time when it would have mattered a lot if there was an interracial couple, you know, back because they weren't allowed to.
I love that though. I thought that was like such a great storyline. I mean, it also explained, you know, Natalie was always complaining about her wild hair, her wild dark curly hair.
Yeah.
So now you kind of know where it comes from.
Right. And
yeah, one of the things that I liked is I liked her blossoming relationship with Dorothy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I always joke that I forgot to have kids, but all the kids in the store I feel such a kinship with. I get very motherly. You can ask Samantha. How did you decide to have Dorothy become such a pivotal role in saving the bookstore?
Well, I definitely wanted a child in the book because I wanted to give Peach a dilemma. You know, he needed some challenges, and I wanted him to be the kind of single dad that you wish most single dads would be. And so, and at first I was thinking I'll make her really bratty, and you know she's got some mischief, but then I thought, no, you know what, most kids, and I found this when I was a teacher, most kids at their heart are amazing. They're wonderful and they're beautiful in every way. And so she's kind of a shout out to the kid that I was. I was obsessed with books. I couldn't stop reading them. There was one summer when I went to the bookstore and I bought a book for, I don't know how I managed to like talk my mom into this, but I bought a book for every letter of the alphabet that was a biography, like Abigail Adams, A. I know. And I read like 26, probably not 26. I don't know if we'd find any X's or Q's or whatever, but I was obsessed with the way they were made and what the stories were about. And, you know, I had books that I would, you know, bring to bed with me, you know, and hold them under my pillow so nobody would take them. And imagine, you know, their lives going on between the pages when they were shut. So Dorothy was definitely a product of, you know, me looking back at, you know, me at age 9 or however old she was in the book.
We have a couple comments. Trisha Leary says that she found an unknown sister through DNA testing.
Oh my God. Have you met her?
then,
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Another person, she really enjoyed all the thoughts and sayings you included about books and reading. You really are never alone with a book. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Books have been my constant companions. You know, my life has been a winding road, but if there are very few things that are as consistent as having a book by my side in any way, shape, or form. I'm kind of into audiobooks these days. You know, I look at print and screen so much that I'll listen to audiobooks now. Sometimes I wish I had a drive time. I don't drive anywhere. I forgot how to drive. I drive to the hospital. That's about it.
I know Mike's an avid audiobook guy, and he got me started. I didn't listen at all. And now it's interesting though, because sometimes I'll finish an audiobook and then I'll immediately want to read it because I'm like, would it be really different experience to read it, you know, than to hear it? So
Well, I find myself buying more than one format. If I really, really love a book, you know, I'll buy it, the audiobook and then the print book, and then I'll have a digital book on my phone so that I can, you know, read that when I'm waiting in line or whatever.
yeah.
We have a couple more comments. Cindy Lane has said, my mom is 93 and still reads 3 to 4 books a week. I inherited the gene.
Oh, yay.
And Tricia says she's planning on meeting her sister next summer.
Wow. That's cool.
That's very cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then Melanie, she listens to audiobooks all the time. I have a 30-minute drive and love to have a way to pass the time. And Louise says, Louise Pledge, this is amazing. She's 81 and she has read over 200 books this year. I mean,
God.
Yay.
Louise. Oh my gosh, you're amazing.
You're a rock star.
You're my spirit animal. Yeah, my mom used to read a book a day. She's very much slowed down now because she's kind of on a journey like Andy is in the book, Andrew. But I come from a reading family, you know, some nights, and I'm the middle child. And so I used to, of 3, I used to beg to have a reading dinner. Mom, can we have a reading where everybody had to be quiet and read? And every once in a while they'd let me pick. So
That's great. All right, I'm gonna torture my boys and say we're gonna have a reading dinner.
A reading dinner.
I love it. I love it.
All right, I think I'm ready to get some help picking the winner. Susan, why don't you give me first a number between 1 and 13?
7. Because everybody picks 7.
Okay. And now, Samantha, give me a number between 1 and 13, and it can be 7 if you want, but.
Between 1 and 13, 11.
11. Okay, so our winners are Cindy Lane and Tam Fields.
Yay! Woohoo! Okay, we'll set you up, Tam and Cindy. When we get it off, we'll shoot you an email with your gift certificate. That works, right?
Hey.
That totally works.
Okay.
We'll get them information about how to get it.
Yep. Cool. Yay.
Oh, cute. Tam's
So
looking
we have a
at number
couple,
7.
we have a couple of comments. We have Marilyn Willauer. She loves the reading dinner idea. And Tam Fields has said, "Yay! My lucky number is 7."
Oh, wow.
And Cindy Lane says, "Thank you." And then Tam also says, "Thank you so much."
Well, and thank everybody for patronizing independent bookstores. Somebody on Twitter today, another writer, Jody Picoult, said, go buy a book today from an independent bookstore. And so I ordered Mrs. Hancock. Wait, what's it called? Mrs. Hancock and the Mermaid.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Mermaid Miss You. That's the one you got?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that book.
Well, it's been on my list. You know how you go, oh, that book sounds so good. I got to read it. And so I, pinned it to my bulletin board and I've been thinking about it anyway. And I looked up and there it was. And I went, oh, I should get that from GGP Books.
Yeah.
I think you're going to love it. Sam and I both love that book. So.
Oh, good.
It's a fun read. It's a really fun read.
We could all do with a little fun right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that was, I mean, Kathleen and I talked about that. That was part of the charm of your book, is it was such a lovely, it was in a way just a lovely escape, and just to really be transported to just the sweetest place and time. And obviously with hardship, and it's not fluffy at all, but it just, everything about it is just warm. It just felt like a warm hug. It was so good.
Oh, well, thank you. Then I did my job. I am actually not out to win a Pulitzer Prize. I don't want to change your life. I just want to change your weekend. So hopefully this is helping your customers do that. Yeah. Oh, and readers are so kind and they're so creative. And I love when Kathleen wrote to me about, how she reacted to the book, it struck me that everybody reads a different book. We can all read the same book, but it lands on you differently depending on who you are and where you are and what you've been up to. And I love that about books and reading. And I think you can't ever underestimate how creative the act of reading really is, because you're bringing your whole self to a story that just only came from one point of view, but suddenly it's not mine anymore. It's hers and his, and everybody else who reads it. And so that's why I'm dying for them to make the movie, right? With this really cool.
I can honestly say that when this book landed on my desk, I took it home and didn't touch it I didn't read it till April, May. And I couldn't put it down. I mean, it absolutely spoke to me on so many levels. I mean, my own personal level, but it also spoke to me as being a book dork. I mean, I've been a lifelong book person, and I was raised by a huge book person. I mean, my mother read a book every night. She, up until her very last cognitive moment, she was still reading books.
Yeah.
So she was quite an inspiration. And I have 2 older sisters, and we are all total book dorks.
I love sharing.
All her fault.
Yeah, and one of the things that I always the reason I fantasize about book selling is there's some kind of weird gratification that you get when you give just the right book to a person.
So
You
true.
know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. And I don't know. It's kind of empowering, or I pat myself on the back when somebody goes, "Oh my God, that book you told me to read, it was like the best thing ever."
I
So
love it.
yeah.
I
Got
totally
another
agree.
comment from Cindy Lane. It's I hope to get our book club to choose this book this year. We meet once a month, and I think everyone would enjoy a book like this exactly. That's why our book club is so great. So many different people. And okay, here's her question: who would you get to play? Who would you want to play Peach in the movie?
Oh, Peach. Oh my God. You know, I'm so old now that I still think about like I don't know, Matthew McConaughey, but he's old too. So who are like the young hotties with the bods, but are still good actors?
Now I don't even. How old are Peach and Natalie? I realized I don't even.
Mid-30s.
Mid-30s.
Yeah, they're not terribly old. So yeah, I'm trying to think who the young hotties are. I know who
Bradley
would play. I
Cooper.
know who would play. Dashwood, Trevor. I know who would play Dashwood. It would be Timothy Chalamet.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Trevor Dashwood. But Peach is more rough around the edges.
Okay.
What about Bradley Cooper?
Oh, okay. There you go. That'd be good. I'll
And who
take
would
that.
you want to play Natalie?
Oh, Natalie. How about Jessica Chastain? No, she's too lily white. I kind of more like a boy. I'm so bad with actors now. I don't remember anybody's name, and I watch stuff all the time. Yeah, I just watched Enola Holmes. Did you guys catch that? It's the kid sister of Sherlock Holmes.
No, and somebody I had never even heard of the book.
Fun. It was fun.
Actually, we
Well,
should talk about getting that book in the
from a
store.
book. I think it was from a book,
Yep.
but not from a Sherlock Holmes book. It was a
No.
speculative. Yeah. Anyway.
No, it's a middle grade, right? I think originally it was a middle grade fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny that you bring that up. I just ordered that for a customer the other day.
Okay. Well.
Enola Holmes.
So I have a little good news that we may be able to close out on. We just got a notice from PG&E that our power at the store is restored. So
That's good. I know
that is definitely good news.
Makes you appreciate it so much when we have to do without. All right.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
I just want to throw a few more things at us, you know.
Exactly.
2020 hasn't been enough fun.
There's still several weeks left to crash and burn in 2020.
Exactly.
Hey, Susan, would you like to join us again sometime?
I would love to. I would love to. When Sugar and Salt, how about when Sugar and Salt comes out, because it takes place in San Francisco on Purdue Street, and then I'll just come across the bridge and we'll hang out.
That would be so fun.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions, you guys? Does anybody have any questions out there in cyber world?
In Zoom land?
In Zoom land. No, but you know what? This was such a pleasure, you guys. Seriously,
So much fun.
I'm in lockdown here in the ER.
Well, I'm glad we could help you pass the time a little bit.
I know. I'll tell Mom she's at a spa.
Tell her she's in Sonoma sipping a glass of wine.
There you go. There you go. Okay, listen, you guys, thank you again. We'll email about the 2 gift certificates, and thank you for your prayers for Mom. She's I think she's going to have a good night.
Good.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks so much,
Thanks,
Susan.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye for now.
Thanks for coming, everybody.